The Association of Meat Importers and Exporters of Southern Africa has welcomed today's decision by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Ebrahim Patel, on rebates for imported boneless and bone-in chicken cuts. The association believes that this will likely keep chicken prices lower for local consumers. We're joined now by Paul Matthew, the CEO at the association. Paul, thank you for your time this evening. You have won after a couple of months of haggling for these rebates. Tell us exactly what you've been fighting for so long that now has become a reality, particularly as local importers are concerned.
Good afternoon, Xolani. I'm not too sure if we won the war yet, but obviously this is very good news. So when Minister Patel, towards the end of last year on the outbreak of ARs, proposed that we should look at a rebate, obviously, Amy, we put forward some recommendations. Obviously, all the recommendations were not met, but we definitely got a rebate on the bone-in and the boneless chicken side. Obviously, we wait the guidelines, which will probably come out in about 10 days' time, to really understand the mechanisms behind the rebate. But this is good news, because if you recall in the past discussions that we've had, when a protection tariff is loaded, and we're now talking 62%, obviously the local producers always match that, and therefore the price goes up, and therefore the consumer feels that. Even the poorer consumer feels it even worse. So what we'll have to see now is obviously how this whole thing's going to work. But our understanding on what was published yesterday is that one would have to prove that cut that you're applying for the rebate for is definitely not available within the country, and there's definitely a shortage of that cut, and therefore the rebate will apply. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how this pans out. But it can only be good news for the consumer.
Let's talk about that, exactly how consumers will benefit, because most of the time when prices change or at the factory floor, we don't as consumers see that change when it comes to our pockets. Is there really going to be that much of a change, or are prices of the bone-in and the boneless chicken cuts that are under these regulations are going to remain the same and won't be affected by any other price moves?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you. So I think this is something that we have to watch. So if we have a look year on year, we've seen that 11% increase in fresh poultry and frozen poultry. So the fact now that as an imported product, we would hopefully benefit from the rebate, it means that we can sell back into the market at a much better price. So therefore, the wholesale section retailers will be able to benefit, and hopefully they will pass that on to the consumer. So looking at poultry for last month, there was a slight decrease on the fresh and the frozen. I think it's sitting at about 1.3%. But I think it's important as this kicks in is to see how the next month or so goes. Obviously, as I said, we need the guidelines. We really need to see the technical side of this, how it's going to work, and then from there, monitor. So, yeah, I think I would like to have a conversation with you in a couple of weeks' time to say, yes, the rebate is definitely benefiting the consumer, or if not, what do we do to lobby to ensure that the consumer benefits out of this rebate?
Paul, if you speak to the other side of the fence, as it were, they will tell you that this might not be so good for local poultry farmers, chicken farmers, because those imports are going to hurt them. If you speak to the poultry sector, those associations, they will tell you otherwise. Do you agree?
There is no doubt that SAPA will come back on this, but I think we need to look at this and we need to understand exactly what is happening here. The poultry sector has been through a lot with AR. They need to get the broiler stocks back up. They need to get the breeder stocks back up. And we've always said in our submissions, we are here in a way to support. Is that it's going to take at least 12 months to get right. So if you are flying in fertilized eggs, that's a huge cost to that, and that obviously that cost is set to the consumer. So we understand they're going to come back, they're going to hit back, they're going to turn around and say there's going to be this huge influx of imports. That's not the case. One has to look at the situation. We have huge delays in our delivery with the vessels. We're looking at a 6 to 8 week process or delivery time now. Understand there's huge port issues, there's delays there. The rand dollar is not in our favor, so there's variables that we have to deal with. So it's not going to be a case where you're going to see all this coming, and I don't see it harming the local guys. Where they cannot provide at the moment and have shortage of stocks, we'll be able to fill that and assist them. And I doubted that the rebate in place for a long time. It'll be we asked the minister, well, we put an application for 12 months. We'll see in the guidelines how long this will last. So let's try and look at this positively. We're here to support. It's the consumer that we're concerned about, and it's the poor consumer. We can really see in the data that the amount of chickens not being sold as it's been in the past, because it's just not affordable at the moment. And the poorer consumer is looking looking at alternative proteins. So as a product, as chicken, it's these battles are doing harm for a poultry industry. So it's time to work together to make sure that the consumer will benefit.
And absolutely, that's true, because the food prices are actually high. We've seen food inflation remaining elevated, and it's something important to also note that when it comes to your statement, you were saying that when you estimate that for every 10% increase in the aggregate import price from duties, there is a 4.8% increase in the consumer price of frozen chicken. So clearly, such rebates do help.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I said, let's have a look at the actual guidelines, the actual details of it, and then maybe catch up later to say, okay, fine, let's see how this is really going to pan out. But I think it's important just for the consumer is that we need to work together as a poultry sector. So a very interesting discussion I had with the beef guys is that over December, and I did say on a public platform that I was convinced there would be a shortage of poultry. Okay, there wasn't. But I also did say there would be a huge increase in the cost, and there was. I mean, we could see how expensive poultry was over the December area. Although we had no shortages, I don't think, because they were selling. But the beef guys actually reported back to me saying they had a fantastic month in December in terms of their sales. So it shows you that the consumer is going to a different category. So these battles and these protectionism battles and tariffs that we keep on having is starting to affect the poultry sector, and that product is now not becoming the sort of prime source of protein for South Africans.
Paul Matthew, thank you for your time this evening. Paul, there is the CEO at the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters of Southern Africa.